He was a quiet man, the kind you'd pass on the street and never think about twice. Ethan Cole didn't chase adventure, didn't crave attention. He showed up, did his job, and went home to a one-bedroom apartment that felt as tired as he was. But one night inside a dusty warehouse on the outskirts of El Paso, Ethan found something no one was ever meant to see, and by morning, he was gone to goodbye. No trace, just a ghost story, with 15 million reasons behind it. It started on a Thursday. The kind of night where time felt heavy and the hum of fluorescent lights was the only company left. Ethan was clocking his sixth straight night shift, sorting through containers that had arrived late. Most of the crew had already gone home. Only he and the night guard remained, sharing the silence between forklifts and flickering bulbs. Ethan wasn't supposed to check that shipment. It wasn't even logged in the manifest. But when the crate slid off the pallet and cracked open, curiosity beat caution. Inside, hidden beneath tarps and old packaging, he saw stacks of cash so crisp it barely looked real. A sea of bills that didn't belong to any warehouse, any company, or any world he understood. He froze. The air seemed to thicken around him. Every instinct told him to close the crate, to pretend it never happened. But something else whispered louder, something human, reckless, desperate. That was the moment everything changed. Ethan spent the next hour in a haze. He stared at the money, pacing around the crate like a man circling a fire he couldn't decide to touch. There were no markings, no documents, nothing to explain why a fortune was sitting in a forgotten corner of the warehouse. Only that it was there, and no one else knew that he thought about his life. His overdue rent, his rusted-out pickup that coughed every morning, his mother's medical bills stacking up on the kitchen counter. He had worked 12-hour shifts for nearly a decade and had nothing to show for it, for once. Life had placed something extraordinary in his hands. But extraordinary things never come free. By dawn, Ethan had made a decision. He loaded 3 duffel bags with cash, sealed the crate, and cleaned the area like nothing had happened. He didn't take it all, just enough to make him believe it might go unnoticed. He told himself he'd figure out the rest later. He clocked out at 6:03 a.m., drove home, and never returned. At first, no one noticed. Ethan's supervisor assumed he was sick. His neighbors thought he'd gone to visit family. But when his apartment stayed empty for days, people started asking questions. His car was gone, his phone disconnected. The only thing left behind was a half-eaten breakfast burrito on the counter and his work ID tossed beside it. Then the warehouse got a visit from people who weren't from the company. They asked no questions. They went straight to the manifest logs, straight to the section where that unlisted crate had sat. Cameras from that night showed only Ethan near it, moments before the feed cut out for exactly 7 minutes. When the system came back online, the crate was sealed again. No one ever explained the blackout. By the time local police were called, there wasn't much to investigate. The crate was empty. The security footage had been corrupted. Ethan Cole was officially listed as a missing person, last seen leaving work on the morning of June 17th. Rumors began to spread. Some said he ran off to Mexico. Others claimed he was found floating in the Rio Grande, though no report ever confirmed that. A few believed the money had never existed, that the story was just a warehouse myth twisted by time and boredom. But those who worked that night remembered the change in atmosphere after Ethan disappeared. The warehouse was never the same. New locks were installed, new supervisors brought in, and the night shifts, once full of casual laughter, became quiet. One coworker, a forklift operator named Ben Ruiz, swore he saw Ethan's locker open 2 days after he vanished. Inside were clean work clothes, untouched, but on the top shelf was a folded note that just said, "I couldn't stop thinking about it." Ben never told the police. He quit the next week. About a month later, a tow truck driver found an abandoned pickup along a dirt road 20 miles north of El Paso. The driver's seat was pushed back, keys still in the ignition, dust settled thick over the dashboard. In the bed of the truck, there was a torn piece of duffel bag, black canvas, with faint traces of green fibers and residue from tape. The police searched the area for 2 days. Nothing. Not a footprint. Not a trail. Not even signs of animals. Just open desert stretching endlessly into the horizon. Detectives eventually pieced together what little they had. The crate Ethan opened that night had been delivered without documentation. routed through a third-party shipping company that no longer existed. Its contact address traced back to a shuttered building near Laredo. The shipment was labeled machinery parts, but no serial numbers matched any known manufacturer. It was as if the entire transaction had been built to vanish once it arrived. One investigator, years later, described the case as a perfect storm of bad luck and bad timing. A low-level worker stumbling onto something that belonged to people who didn't tolerate mistakes. Still, there were holes in the theory. If someone had taken Ethan, why leave his truck? Why not erase everything? And if he'd run away with the money, why abandon his vehicle with part of the duffel bag still inside? For months, the police received tips, sightings from across the border, photos of a man resembling Ethan in gas stations or roadside diners. None of them ever led anywhere. His bank accounts remained untouched. His social security number was never used again. By winter, the case went cold. His mother placed a missing poster on the front porch every Christmas. The same picture of her son smiling awkwardly in a work uniform. She never took it down. 2 years later, a new warehouse manager cleaning out old storage found a crate identical to the one Ethan had opened. Same wood, same size, but this one was empty, too, except for a single item sitting neatly inside, a faded photo of the El Paso warehouse crew. Ethan was in the middle, holding a coffee cup, half smiling. On the back of the photo were 3 words written in black marker. It wasn't mine. No fingerprints, no leads, no answers. Still, the story refused to die. A local radio host picked it up for a Halloween special called The Man Who Found Too Much. The episode drew thousands of listeners, all speculating what really happened that night. Some claimed the money was part of a smuggling operation gone wrong. Others thought Ethan staged the whole thing, an elaborate setup to vanish and live rich under a new name. But the people who knew Ethan best didn't buy that. They remembered the man who worked double shifts to pay for his mother's surgery, who returned lost wallets, who once turned in a found $20 bill at a gas station. Greed wasn't in his nature. So if Ethan didn't take the money for himself, who did he take it for? 3 years after his disappearance, an El Paso detective named Maria Duran reopened the case quietly. Something about it bothered her. The photo, the crate, the missing paperwork. When she dug through archived shipping logs, she found 6 more unlisted containers routed through the same non-existent company, all arriving within a 3-week window. Every one of them was signed in by a different employee, none of whom still worked there. When Duran tried to trace those employees, she discovered 2 had moved out of state, 1 had died in a car accident, and the rest couldn't be located. The deeper she looked, the stranger it became. Every shipment had vanished from records exactly 7 days after arrival. If that's when she stopped digging, because a week later, Duran's car was broken into outside her apartment. Nothing was stolen, except the file she'd compiled on Ethan Cole. She dropped the case the next day. Today, the warehouse still stands. Same cracked windows, same echoing halls. It changed owners twice, but some say the 3rd loading bay is still sealed shut. No one's allowed to work there after dark. Every few months, someone posts online about the warehouse ghost of El Paso. The story changes slightly each time. Some say Ethan was caught on camera years later at a diner in Nevada, older but unmistakable. Others insist he died that same night, and the ghost sightings are just superstition. But the one detail that never changes is this: whoever found that crate that night was never seen again. And maybe that's why his story lingers. Because deep down, people wonder what they'd have done in his place. Would they have walked away and reported it? Or would they have taken just enough, just a little, to rewrite their lives forever? For Ethan Cole, the answer was $15 million. And it cost him everything. No one knows where he went. No one knows who the money belonged to. All that remains is a whisper of a man who disappeared into the desert, and the legend of what happens when you open the wrong crate on the wrong night in the wrong place.